did life come from? Alam mo ba kung saan nanggaling ang buhay?
Hindi ko alam.
Yes. Alam mo ba kung saan nanggaling ang buhay? Ang klaseng tanong yan? Duh, hindi ko alam.
Uy, ano yung hawak mo?
Karne na walang takip para malingaso yung amoy niya.
Ah. Ikaw naman, ano yung hawak mo?
Karne na may takip. Para hindi lumilangaso yung amoy. Saka full itong pangtakip para safe yung amoy di lumas.
Ah. May, ikaw naman, ano yung hawak mo?
To? Karne. Kaso fully covered siya para hindi siya langawin.
Ah. Uy, saan nyo naman nakuha yan?
Sa
Ready experiment.
Ah.
Bakit? Di ka ba nagbabasa ng libro?
Biogenesis is also known as spontaneous generation. This hypothesis holds that life can appear from inert matter. It is a long-established ancient belief, for in surface observations it appears that worms are formed from mud, flies from rotting flesh, insects from decomposing wood, and so on. Aristotle, Democritus, and Thales of Miletus, in antiquity, shared this view. In 1620, Van Helmont, a believer of the spontaneous generation, wrote that if a dirty shirt and some wheat were placed in a barrel, mice would be formed within 21 days. Redi did not believe in spontaneous generation, and in 1668 he showed that the worms that appeared in decaying flesh were fly larvae that had previously laid their eggs there. To prove it, Redi placed pieces of meat inside gauze-covered containers and other pieces in uncovered containers. Days later, the uncovered meat had worms, while the protected meat did not have them. Redi concluded that life originates from pre-existing life, an idea called biogenesis. Redi's experiments demonstrated the falsity of spontaneous generation, at least in visible animals, since shortly after, the tiny life was discovered with the invention of the microscope by Leeuwenhoek, and many scholars continued to believe in the spontaneous generation of microscopic organisms. For example, in 1748, Needham prepared culture media, but he did not sterilize them well nor sealed them. After a few days, he observed that the containers contained microbes and he thought that they had to be formed from the crops themselves, so he concluded that his experiment was evidence of spontaneous generation. Spallanzani did not accept Needham's conclusions and repeated his experiments, but he boiled the blends for a longer time. When filling the bottles, he used corks to cover half of them and sealed the others. Spallanzani observed that the microbes appeared only in the corked flasks, and he presented this experiment as proof that there was no spontaneous generation. But that test was rejected because the biogenists indicated that the air had been excluded from the sealed flasks, and stated that it was essential for spontaneous generation, while biogenists argued that air was the source of contamination and had to be excluded. In 1864, Pasteur put an end to the controversy. He was convinced that all living beings, however small, came from germs floating in the air, so he designed swan-neck flasks, in which he poured culture media, which was sterilized by boiling. As the flasks cooled, air could enter them, but the microbes were trapped in the swan necks without reaching the culture media, which remained sterile indefinitely. But if the swan's neck was broken, the culture medium became contaminated very soon. Pasteur's work definitively confirmed the theory of biogenesis. Their swan-necked flasks with the culture media of the original experiment remain sterile and are on display at the Pasteur Institute in Paris.